Hello guys, welcome back to my channel, and in this video I'll be starting a new series on the Django. And the Django is a Python framework which we use in creating web content or like web apps and websites. And like you can see on my screen, I made a blog app which I'm going to use to teach you people how to use the Django in this series. So we are going to start from the basic, and I'm going to teach you down to the advanced how to use a lot of things. And the Django is a cool framework to learn about because the Django is used by a lot of companies like Instagram, Spotify, YouTube, and lots more. So you are going to really enjoy this series. So I would advise you stay put and watch how we are going to do this magic to build this wonderful blog. Thank you. So the first thing we are going to do now is to install the Django. And to install the Django, we are going to use pip, which means that you have to have Python installed in your computer before you can install Django. So if you want to install Django, you can say pip install the Django, and then strike enter, and it will install the Django for you. But already I have it installed, so I'm not going to install Django. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start my Python project, my first Django project. So I'm going to say Django -admin start project. And then after you have said Django's start project, then you have to give your project name. So I can say first project, since this is the first project I want to create for this series. Django first project, and strike enter. And the project is already created, so I'm going to navigate into the folder which is on the document. I'm going to say cd first project, and then I'm already in my first project folder, so I'm going to say code dot to open the directory in Visual Studio Code. So as you can see, I already have my Visual Studio Code on the screen, and then you can see that the Django has already created some few files for us, and you can see my first project here, and you can see manage.py, and the most of all this file is manage.py because this file is what we are going to use mostly to run our code in Django. So it's very important. And aside from that, we are going to see how we will use the urls.py and settings.py for the meantime. So having done this, then we have to check if the Django or our project was successfully created. And to do that, we have to run our server. So we can go to our terminal. I can use the VS Code terminal, and I can do something like Python manage.py run server, and this will run the server for me. Manage.py, just like I told you that we are going to use it to execute our files throughout this course. Once I run this now, you see that the Django will return a response for me, and then in the response you are going to get this URL. Let me make my interface a little bit bigger, or let me reduce it so that you see what the URL is. You see something like HTTP, and then this is our IP address, and then this is the port number where we are going to access our Django app. And to visit it, you can hold down Control, click it, or you can copy it and then go to your browser and paste it. But I prefer clicking, so it will help me run it very fast. And then you can see that the Django was successfully installed, and they're telling us congratulations. So we have successfully installed the Django. Then the next thing we are going to do now is to create app in our Django project. The Django framework has the ability to like create multiple apps in a particular project. So what we are going to do now, we are going to create a project. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you how to create an app in a Django project. So we are going to go back to our code, and then to stop the server from running, all you need to do is just press Ctrl+C, and then it will stop the server from running. And if you want to create a project, you can just say Python manage.py start app. So this command is going to help us to like start an app or create an app. And after that, we are going to define the name you want to give to your app. So I'm going to say something like first app. And then once I run this, then you see that automatically the Django will create another folder for us. So aside from our first project, we now have first app. So this is our project, and then this is our app. Our app is a subfolder of the project. So our app is using the project file to run. So that's how it is in the Django. So now what I'm going to do now, I'm going to work on my app. But before I work on my app, I have to first install my app in the in my project folder. And to do the installation, all I need to do is just open my folder, my project folder, and then go to setting.py. Then in my setting, you are going to see installed app. Then among the installed app, I can come down here and then install my new app, which is first app. So now we have our app installed. So in the setting.py is where we are majorly going to install our apps, and then the URLs is where we are going to like define the URLs that we are going to use in our app as well. But in this tutorial, we are going to focus on our views.py, but not here, but the views.py in our app, because what the views.py does for us, the views.py is responsible to execute all the views that the user will see whenever they visit our URL or whenever they visit the site that we are trying to build. So we are going to like work on this view to like make things display whenever a user visits the URL. So to do that, I'm going to define the function. That's how we create things in the view. Then I'm going to call it index, and then it's going to have a parameter request. All functions in view here is going to have that parameter request, so don't forget. And then aside from that, I'm going to return what I want the Django to show whoever is visiting my site. I'm going to say something like http response, and then in the bracket I'll define what I want the Django to show for me. So I'm going to say welcome Emmanuel. So I'm going to like print welcome Emmanuel whenever we visit this we visit a particular URL, which I'm going to define now. But to use the HTTP response, we have to go and import it at the top here, because it's an standard module that we want to use in this file. What I'm going to do now, I'm going to copy from the Django.http import HTTP response, and then this will import the HTTP response for me. And the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to define the URL that I'm going to visit before I could see this hello Emmanuel. So I'm going to go to my app, and then in my app I'm going to say something like urls.py, but right now I don't have any app urls.py, so I have to like create a new app, a new file, urls.py. So inside my urls.py, that's where I'm going to define all the URLs I'm going to use in this app. So before I do that, I'm going to import some couple of things that I'm going to use in this URL. So I'm going to say from Django.urls import path, because I'm going to use path, and then I'm going to import my views again, because I'm going to use some things from my view. So in order not to forget, I have to like import those things first. So I'm going to say, now I advise you to do the same. I'm going to say from views from dot, because the URLs and the views are in the same directory, so I can use dot to access the view, and then I can say from dot import views. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to say URL patterns, which is going to be equal to a list. So it's going to contain the list of all the URLs I'm going to use. And I'm going to say something like path, which I told you this is the path we just imported, and then open parentheses, and I'm going to define the URL. So this is just like the default directory. Each time you visit this default directory, then it's going to show what I want it to show. And then after that, I'm going to define the view that is going to display. And to do that, I'm going to say views.index. So I want the URL to display what is in this view.index, and that was why I had to import the view at the top here. So after that, I'm going to give my URL a name. So I'm going to say name, which is going to be equal to index. And then lastly, what I'm going to do is the URL that I just created in my app, I'm going to include it in my project URLs. So this is where all the URLs I'm going to use. So I'm going to look for URLs here. Okay, so you can see URL patterns just like what we just did, but this is for my app. So I can even come here and include my URL without the URL file that I just created and include it direct, but that's not the right way to do it, or that's not the professional way to do it. So that's why I have to create an standard file urls.py. So there I'm going to put all the URLs I'm going to use in my app, and then I'm going to put the file or include the file, the entire file in this this environment. I'm going to say something like path, and then in the path I'm going to visit a default URL. That's the first environment you see each time we load our app. Instead of seeing that jet that is telling you welcome, you have successfully installed the Django, it's not going to show that, but it's going to show you whatever is in my view. So that's why I'm not going to put any name here or any text here, just like the way you see here. But this is for my admin, and later you see how we are going to use this admin in this course. But after that, I'm going to include my URL. So include the URL file that I'm going to use, which is in my first app. It has to be in with first app dot URLs, first app dot URLs, and then a comma. And then one more thing I have to do is, since the include is also an external module, I have to import it as well. So after the part, I can say comma import include to as well. So with this now, I believe I can run my app now to see what I have in my app. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to bring up terminal. Let me just remove one. I'm going to bring the terminal, then I'm going to say python manage.py run server. And then when I go back to my app, instead of seeing this welcome, I'm going to see whatever is in my URL when I refresh. So we are going to say something like welcome Emmanuel. So what we did is working. And again, if I don't want to see welcome Emmanuel, like if I want to see any other name aside from Emmanuel, I can go back to my views, and then instead of Emmanuel here, I can say welcome John, and then save this, go back again, and once I refresh, you see that it will change from welcome Emmanuel to welcome John. And aside from using HTTP response to like return something in our views, we can also return an HTML file. And to do that, I can also say def, and then I'm going to call the function like the grid, and then I'm going to have this parameter request because we are requesting, and then it's going to return a render, and then in the render we are also going to request, and then what we are going to render is going to be in this parameter. So I'm going to say, well, let's say for example I want first app slash grid. I want to name the grid.html. So that's the file that I'm going to like render. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to create a folder which is going to be called my template folder. So template, and then in this template I'm going to create another folder which I'm going to call first app. And then in my first app folder, I'm going to create the file grid.html. So why we have to like do all this process in HTML in the Django is that, should in case we have like I told you that one of the ability Django gives us the ability to like run multiple apps in one particular project. So should in case we have like multiple apps with the same name, to avoid it from clashing or to avoid it from returning what we don't want, should in case like I have another app named first app in another app that I don't know. So if I want to like get the HTML, there's every possibility it can give me this HTML if I did not like structure them in this way. So once I put this HTML in my first app, it's going to tell the Django that this HTML file belongs to this first app, and then this first app belongs to this template of this app, which is first app, the name of the entire app. And then here is where I'm going to like define the HTML that I'm going to use. I'm going to use just the h1 tag, and then I'm going to say good day, and then I'm going to go back to my view. I've not saved it, and then one more mistake, it has to be first app because we put it in first app, and we are not going to include the template file here because the Django already knows that template is going to return HTML4, so we don't have to include it. All we just have to is include this first app, and then the next thing we are going to do is just like we did for this, we are going to include it in include the site that we are going to visit before we render the HTML. So I'm going to go to my URL and do that. So once I go to my URL now, aside from the index that we are going to show in a view that we are going to like display, we can also add another part, and then this part is not going to take the default route like the index, where I'm going to say grid. So as to each time we visit the grid slash, and then it's going to display our views.grid. And I believe by now you know that views.grid is nothing but this app that we have here, grid, this function that we have here called grid. So that's what we are going to like display in the view. And then we are going to name our URL as a grid. You can name yours whatever you want, but I have to name mine grid so that I will remember. So once I've done this, I believe everything is ready now and my app can run. So I'm going to go back to my site and I'm going to refresh. Everything is fine. So I'm going to try to like visit the URL/grid and see what will happen. And then you see I got good day Emmanuel to show you that I can render HTML. So if you already have a structured HTML tool there, you can also render it for you. And then one more thing I'm going to do is I'm going to like try to like make this dynamic. You can see that this is just static site with just HTML saying hello name. So I'm going to try to like use the Django to make it a little bit dynamic. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go back to my view, and then after the request I'm going to pass another parameter which I'm going to call name. So I don't want it to just say Emmanuel, good day Emmanuel, but I want it to like greet anybody that is going to type the name in the URL. So I'm going to go to my under the request here. We also have the ability to add this curly braces. In this curly braces, that's where we can like define some things that we want the HTML to access through this Python. So just like here we can code a Python and then we can send it to the HTML through this curly braces. So this is just a Python parameter that I've added and I want to send it to my HTML page. So I can just say name is equal to name. So what I'm saying is that this Python name is equal to this name. So I'm going to go to my greet in HTML. So instead of saying Emmanuel here, I'm going to use double curly braces, and then in it I'm going to put the name which I'm sending from my view. So this name is coming from my view here. I've said it's just like a dictionary that contains this name. So this name is now this name which I've sent in my HTML, and then in my URL I have to like make some amendment. So instead of this grid, I want whenever anybody visits a particular types his name in the URL, then the site is going to like tell him good day so and so person. So I'm going to say something like use the open and close tag, and then inside the open and close tag I'm going to say if anybody type a string, that string is going to be equal to our name variable or our name which we added in our part in the grid. So you are going to like try to like revise this part because I know it's going to be a little bit complicated, and try to like practice while watching this because that will help you a lot. So once you have done this, it's going to like send this to our HTML. So once I just save it and then go to my browser now, and then instead of grid, but I have to like refresh first, which is going to return an error now because there's no grid again. So I'm going to say /Emmanuel, and you're going to see good day Emmanuel, and then if I say /John, then you're going to see good day John. So whatsoever name that I type there, if I type /rules, you're going to see good day rules. So we have been able to like convert the static site into a dynamic site, and that's what Django will really help us to do in the long run. So I believe you enjoyed this first video, and I would love to see you in the next one. Thank you.